By the time they admit the truth, more than 50 people will be dead, and the wrong men will already be in the ground. Throughout the 1980s, bodies keep appearing in forests along the railway lines of the Rostov region. A killer is hunting in plain sight, but the Soviet state has already decided he cannot possibly exist, and that decision is what gives him 12 years to keep hunting. Inside the Soviet Union, the word serial killer was not supposed to exist. Official doctrine called it a Western disease, something that thrived in capitalist rot, not in the clean, ordered world of communism. Party bulletins and police manuals made it plain: murderers could act once, maybe twice. But the idea of a repeat predator was dismissed as foreign propaganda. Every new body was logged as an isolated tragedy. Investigators were told to look for a local quarrel, a jealous lover, a drifter passing through, never a pattern, never a connection. They filed each death in a separate folder, locked away in separate offices, scattered across the map. No warnings went out to the public. No newspaper ran a headline about a killer on the loose. To speak of such a thing was to admit a flaw in the system itself. Even among the police, talk of serial murder drew suspicion. Officers learned to avoid the word, to write reports that blamed circumstance or chance. The manuals they studied offered no guidance for hunting a repeat killer. There were no profiles, no shared lists, no cross-regional meetings. The system was built to see only what it wanted to see. When a state chooses doctrine over evidence, what is left unseen? How many bodies must it take before belief gives way to reality? Alexander Kravchenko was not a monster. He was a factory worker, a man with a past, but not a killer. When a 9-year-old girl was found dead near the Rostov railway in 1978, the system needed someone to blame. Kravchenko's record made him easy to choose. He was arrested, interrogated, and pressed until he confessed. The confession was all anyone wanted. Forensics showed his blood type did not match the killer's, but the file was closed. In 1980, Kravchenko was executed by firing squad. His death was not the end. Another man, unnamed in the records, met the same fate for a murder later tied to the same invisible hand. The state had its answers. The real killer kept moving. Confessions were extracted behind closed doors. Evidence was bent until it fit. The truth, messy, dangerous, and unthinkable, was locked away. Each wrongful conviction became another line in a report, another name erased to keep the numbers clean. The machine demanded closure, not justice. How many innocent people were sacrificed so the lie could live? The question hangs unanswered over every sealed case file. The killer walked free. The state killed for him. Andrei Chikatilo was born in 1936 in a village battered by famine and war. He grew up thin, quiet, and unnoticed. In 1963, he married. 2 children followed. He worked as a teacher in the early 1970s, standing at the front of Soviet classrooms, blending into the rows of grey suits and tired faces. Later, he took a job as a supply clerk. The new position came with travel papers, blank tickets stamped by the state, opening the map of the USSR. He moved between towns, riding trains through the Rostov region, passing in and out of stations where nobody remembered his face. He was tall, stooped, and wore a look of mild confusion. Neighbors described him as forgettable. Colleagues thought him dull. On city streets, in crowded waiting rooms, he was just another man with a briefcase. At home, he was a father who paid the bills and said little. On the move, he was invisible, one more passenger among millions, stepping off a train and vanishing into the night. There was nothing to warn the world. No wild eyes, No rage, no sign of what he carried behind that bland, tired face. The horror was not in how he looked, but in how easy it was to look away. How many killers are missed because they look like nobody at all? Viktor Burakov stepped into the case when others had given up. He was not interested in closing files or soothing superiors. He wanted answers. Burakov gathered reports scattered across Rostov and beyond, piecing together deaths that the system insisted were unconnected. He saw the pattern: victims vanishing near railway lines, bodies left in the woods, the killer always moving, always just out of reach. Burakov pushed for methods the manuals did not mention. He turned to Alexander Bukhanovsky, a psychiatrist, willing to speak words the state refused to print. Bukhanovsky studied the crime scenes, the wounds, the timing. In 1985, he wrote a psychological profile, 65 pages describing a man who was reclusive, impotent, capable only of violence. The profile was cold and precise, a mirror held up to the darkness. It matched Chikatilo in ways no one else dared to suggest. But the system was built to reject such thinking. Bukhanovsky's work was filed away, labeled as theory, not fact. Then came 1984. Chikatilo was arrested. The evidence looked strong, but a blood test said his type was A, while the crime scene pointed to AB. The test was flawed. Soviet forensics could not explain the mismatch. On this technicality, the man who should have been stopped walked out of custody. He disappeared back into the crowd, and the killings continued. Years later, a patrolman noticed a disheveled man stepping from the trees near a railway station. He wrote it in his report. For the first time, the investigation had a shape, a face, a chance to catch the real killer. How many lives were lost because the truth was too dangerous to name? How close did the state come to ending the nightmare, only to let it slip away? November 1990. The hunt is over. Andrei Chikatilo is pulled from a crowd at Sukhoi Log Station, his hands empty, his face as blank as ever. 12 years, 52 bodies. The killer, no one was supposed to see, stands blinking under the station lights. He does not fight. He does not protest. In a grey interrogation room, Chikatilo begins to talk. The words come easily. 56 murders. He tells the police where to dig, points to forests and ditches no one has searched. Bones rise from the earth, silent proof of what the state refused to believe. Each new grave is another wound, another name added to a list that should never have existed. The trial opens in Rostov in April 1992. For the first time, the horror cannot be hidden. The accused sits locked inside a metal cage, iron bars meant to hold back the rage of the families, the press, the city itself. The cage is not just for him, it is for what he represents. The system's denial made visible. Chikatilo rants, sings, curses the judge. He claims radiation is poisoning him. He laughs at the charges. The court listens. The evidence is overwhelming. 52 convictions. No one speaks of ideology now. No one says the word impossible. February 1994, Novodevichy prison. Chikatilo is executed with a single shot. The killer is gone. The bodies are counted. The cage is empty. But the reckoning is not over. The state cannot claim victory. For 12 years it hunted shadows and punished the innocent, all to defend a LIE. How many died because the truth was forbidden? How many more would suffer before the system admitted what it had unleashed? Denial kills. When a system buries truth, it buries the innocent too. Today, regimes still claim monsters cannot exist within their borders, but certainty is not protection. It's a blindfold, and the next predator always waits where no one dares to look. What do you think? Could it happen again?